One day, a girl named Haruka came to Sato's house. He is rumored to be a capable person because of his extremely accurate judgment and is also very knowledgeable about demons. He asked her why she came here, and she said that half a month ago, she and some upperclassmen went to her old school to test their courage. 6 other people went there and they all encountered scary phenomena, especially ghosts. 10 days later, the victims began to have strange symptoms. One person went to the hospital, one person committed suicide. Saito wanted to know if she saw them being possessed with her own eyes, otherwise nothing was certain. Saito said if you need help, pay 25,000 yen, pay 10,000 yen in advance and move on. The two didn't know each other at all, so Saito had no reason to do it for free. Haruka looked around and discovered a mirror in the corner of the room and realized that Sato's card-guessing game just now was just a scam. Seeing Haruka realize Sato's trick, he changed his mind and decided to help her. I can actually see ghosts. He cannot exorcise evil spirits, but if a spirit is haunting a friend in the hospital, he can help. Haruka didn't believe it and was about to leave when he told her that Haruka had a sister who died in an accident. The two went to the hospital for a checkup and Saito saw that there were 4 souls haunting this girl. He asked and was told they were all murdered. When they left, Saito thought their bodies might still be in that room. Suddenly the teacher calls Haruka over because another person committed suicide after showing unusual symptoms in class. The teacher knew that the children had gone to their old school, so they partly guessed that this was caused by the devil. But the police probably won't believe it, so the teacher wants you to keep this a secret. Saito then left with Haruka, but he wanted to take her straight home since she was also being targeted. Haruka realized that Saito was trying to protect her, so she obediently obeyed. The next morning, the two went to their old school to look for information but were stopped by security because they had to ask permission from the teacher. Both have to go back. But midway, Saito discovered some digging marks, so he followed and saw a pile of objects buried underground that someone had turned over. He tells Haruka that the culprit is a teacher and that there might be a basement at his old school that they don't know about. Because there were not 2 people participating on the challenge day, why did the teacher know that there were only 4 people participating that day, while that day there were 6 people coming? But he couldn't rush to conclusions, so he needed more evidence. He took the glass the teacher had just drank from and asked a detective he knew to examine it for him. Saito and Haruka went back to wait for the results. She wanted to go out to use the restroom, so Saito let her go. Meanwhile, the inspector just brought the things to the doctor. The doctor analyzed and the results matched the belongings of the missing person. Saito waited for Haruka for so long that when he went to find her, she was taken away. The spirit of a little girl showed him the way. Haruka wakes up and realizes the teacher is the murderer. He intended to kill her to cover up the clues. But at that moment, Saito ran to save him. The teacher hid behind the wall and rushed out to attack. Saito still tried to stand up and said that he was being resented by many souls. He wanted to show him the pain the victims had endured. The teacher ran away in fear and set fire to the whole house. Before he could run away, the inspector came here and caught him and called the fire department. Saito and Haruka ran to the roof to wait for help. Haruka said she came here hoping to see her deceased sister again because someone heard the melody of the song her sister used to play. She believes that she was the cause of her accident, so she must still hate herself. But he told Haruka to close her eyes and let her see her sister's soul again. While the two were here, in another part of the city, a mysterious person possessed both yin and yang eyes instead of one eye like Saito. This person's power is so great that he has a whole army of zombies. A few days later, at a construction site, there were 2 workers. They are spreading word of mouth that this construction site is rumored to be haunted. Suddenly a strange phenomenon happened that made them just hold their heads in fear. Haruka came to find Saito again to go with him to the hospital to help the haunted souls escape. The possessed girl also woke up, so Saito and Haruka left. Saito shared that he does not like sealing or imprisoning anyone's soul because they are also human and have emotions. He also does not like people who claim to be spiritualists and specialize in deceiving others. As for the money Haruka intended to pay, he did not take it anymore because the haunted girl's father paid it on her behalf. Saito thought this was the end of their relationship, so he left. After that, she went to work and asked for leave in the near future because she no longer needed money urgently. She meets the chairman of a construction project and is worried about a rumored curse at the construction site. The story is that this city has 2 temples worshipping the fox god, but one temple was bought by the president, and when he wanted to move the temple to another place, he encountered a mysterious problem. Haruka personally went to check, but was scared by the spirit of the fox god. She accidentally met a monk and learned that this person was Sato's uncle because he also had yin and yang eyes. But actually it was just a fake eye because Saito had been isolated since childhood. Just because of the difference in one eye, he deliberately did that to encourage and comfort him. He takes Haruka upstairs because Saito is also here. He rarely comes here because this place has many souls that make him feel uncomfortable. Saito came here to borrow books and then left. Sato's uncle tells Haruka that this is Sato's younger sister, named Nao. The girl is deaf, so she cannot hear anything. Regarding Saito, he is not the heartless type. He's just trying to act tough, but deep down he's very kind. When leaving, Haruka saw Saito meeting some girl and thought they were lovers. The next day, Haruka went to the temple again and met the president. She told him about seeing souls when suddenly a strange phenomenon happened. She was almost hit in the head by a flying iron bar. Luckily Saito arrived in time. He believed that the soul could not cause the physical phenomenon as just now because the scaffolding was already connected to electricity. Giggling sounds came from the speakers, and the exploding lights were from gunpowder, and the person who did it was the president's friend. He knows the president is trying to make up for past mistakes with his lover. He had previously loved a girl across the street from his house, but their statuses were too different, so he invited her to the Eastern Temple. But the messenger mistakenly made an appointment in the West, forcing both of them to wait on opposite sides. He didn't have the courage to step forward and wait until he missed that girl. So now he wants to merge the 2 sides of the temple together. Saito said it wasn't necessary anymore because that girl was still waiting for him here. The 2 touched each other one last time before the girl completely passed away. The next morning, Haruka learns that the girl from yesterday was the one who hired Saito for this case, and now we come to the 3rd case. This case is about a haunted tunnel, and anyone who dares to take a shortcut through here will suffer the consequences. The police and press had to get involved, so last time reporters questioned the inspector. The inspector didn't have much information, so he had to go see Saito. I met Haruka here but couldn't find Saito anywhere. The 2 sat and talked for a long time before he returned. Because he had just returned the book, he was ready to listen to both of their requests. The first is about Haruka. She said that yesterday, when she was taken home by the manager, he ventured into the haunted tunnel and they met a real ghost. But the manager was not afraid and took them both out of the tunnel. So now she wants Saito to confirm whether she and the manager are haunted or not. Haruka was not affected at all, but the manager had to meet him to know. As for the inspector, he showed 3 photos. First is the location of the car repair shop and where you need to go. The second is that the person being sought after is a car mechanic who had an accident and escaped, and the third is that his soul needs to be met to ask questions and assist in the investigation. Because Saito still owed the favor, he couldn't refuse. When he arrived, Saito asked his uncle to dig the ground for him because he wanted to see if the boy was dead or just temporarily lost his soul. He was about to ask Saito what he thought of Haruka when he found a hand. After an autopsy, it was discovered that the boy had just been run over by a car and had been strangled to death. The inspector later learned that the owner of the car repair shop had been arrested. Saito checked on the manager and there was nothing bad, but when he looked at the photo of the child, his expression changed. After that, he asked the inspector to monitor the manager because it was quite suspicious that a person who was not afraid of ghosts would change his face like that. I was about to investigate when the car repairman spoke up, and it was true that the manager caused the accident and covered it up with an accident. The person who was just arrested was the person who repaired his car. He ran in and tried to keep him and Haruka still, but they both left. He called her, but she didn't answer. Suddenly, the boy's soul made the manager's body stiff and unable to control the car. The detective came to pick up Saito and quickly chased after Haruka. He wanted him to come a little closer so he could convince the boy to stop. As they approached, the boy did not listen to Sato's advice and crashed his car into him. They were about to rush to the haunted tunnel when the inspector recklessly overtook the other car, forced the other car to the side of the road and braked suddenly. As soon as he stopped the car, Saito ran over to see if Haruka was okay. The remaining boy leaves and is pulled away by the evil spirit inside. It sought Sato's help, but he could do nothing. Saito had to watch helplessly as the boy was devoured by those souls. I asked him to bring me a bouquet of flowers to say goodbye and soothe those souls. Saito goes home and he and Haruka have a chance to talk again. Sato's uncle believes that Saito still has many difficulties ahead and hopes that Haruka will be by his side to help him overcome them. A few days later. There are many media reports about female students going missing and being repeatedly murdered by suffocation and tying ropes to their feet. Because the inspector often went to work on unrelated cases and did not report what he had done, he was fired from the department. Meanwhile, Haruka is told by a friend that he has seen a ghost and needs Haruka's help. She came to Saito again. She said she registered with the school to join Sato's club, so now it's normal for her to come here. The inspector also called but could not hear, so a moment later he and his assistant walked in. Saito wants to know what the detective is here for, since he always comes here. For some reason, the detective wanted Saito to follow, so Haruka left on her own. She meets her other friend and decides to take matters into her own hands. Returning to Saito, the inspector said that 5 days ago, 2 people suddenly collapsed on the road. One was a journalist who had just fainted, the other was a middle-aged man who took too many stimulants and died of a drug overdose. This guy used to be a doctor, manufactured drugs, and sold them. It is unclear whether he intentionally committed suicide or not, so the problem lies with the journalist, because her family said she was haunted. Because she is the daughter of the police chief, they have the right to investigate this spiritual-related case. Meanwhile, Haruka follows his friend's instructions and goes to the river where several drownings have recently occurred. She saw a spirit in the water and was drawn to follow it. Because of Saito, the 3 went into the house, and when they went in to check the situation, the journalist kept growling in a scary way. Saito observed and realized that inside was the soul of the drugged man. He tells the inspector, and if nothing is done soon the journalist will die. The 2 return to see the doctor to get information about the dead man. At this moment, Assistant IXI walked in. The doctor lost interest and gave them the information they needed. When they opened it, there were 2 keys and a book. IXI is assigned to investigate 1 key, while the inspector and Saito will investigate the other key and the girl. In this photo, they went to see a doctor and coincidentally, it was this doctor who saved Haruka's life and was also the one who delivered Sato's mother. The doctor wanted to know if Saito and his mother's left eyes were okay. Saito said his mother left 20 years after trying to kill him. He only had time to grab the bracelet and was rescued by the inspector. He wanted to know how his mother felt when she saw this eye on the day he was born. The doctor said she was so scared that she realized she was just an illegitimate child, so she turned away. Haruka, who was outside, accidentally overheard everything, so she chased after Saito. He was about to throw the bracelet away, but she stopped him. She knew Saito was always in pain but didn't care what the reason was. She wouldn't let Saito throw away his mother's only keepsake. He gave the bracelet back to Haruka and apologized to her. Meanwhile, the person with red eyes came and silently observed Saito because he knew his mother and Saito well. He also targets Haruka because she is a perfect vessel.